Welcome back to another class on Gemara journey with Rashi. We are continuing in Masecht Berachot on Daf Gimel amud Bet. We are in the second line from the wide lines in the middle of the Gemara. The Gemara says, "Ve'amar Rabbi Zrika, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi." Rabbi Zrika said in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Before we continue, we need to understand why are we quoting right now Rabbi Zrika, who said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. If you remember in the previous class, in part 5 of the Shu'ur, we spoke about maybe 10 lines up. It says, "My time of the Rebbe." What is the reason of Rebbe that he holds the night consists of 4 watches? And then we quoting Rabbi Zrika. Since we're quoting Rabbi Zrika over here, we're going to now go ahead and quote him in our new class today. So one more time. My time with the Rebbe, what is the what is the reason that Rebbe holds the night consists of 4 watches? Am Rabbi Zrika, Am Rabbi Ami, Am Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, because Rabbi Zrika said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Levi. One verse says that David HaMelech used to get up at Chatzot Laila to go ahead and praise Hashem, to thank Hashem on His righteous laws. Another pasuk says, "My eyes preceded the day 2 watches." 1 second. How can one pasuk tell me he would get up at Chatzot, and another pasuk tell me that his eyes preceded the Ashmurot, meaning before the day, 2 watches before the day? So came Rabbi Zrika, who said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He wants to tell you when the first verse that says that David would wake up at Chatzot, and then the next verse that says, "My eyes preceded the Ashmurot," meaning it was 2 watches, which is before day, comes Rabbi Zrika and he tells you, from here you learn that the second half of the night had 2 watches, the first half of the night had 2 watches, so you have the reason for Rebbe why he holds the night consists of 4 watches. Now we're not gonna get back into the whole sugya, but I wanted just to bring down over your point that since we quoted Rabbi Zrika in the name of Rabbi Ami, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Levi, now we're going to quote another teaching in his name. Now you might ask yourself, Rabbi, why do you have to say Rabbi Zrika again and Rabbi Ami again and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi again? Why do you need to go ahead and quote each rabbi that they heard it from? So you have to understand like this. There is a very big misconception, right? You go to a shul, you hear a rabbi speak, or in a yeshua, or wherever you're going to be, you hear a rabbi gives Divrei Torah. He has the book in front of him, let's say Yalkut Yosef, Shulchan Aruch, doesn't matter, any sefer. Now he goes ahead and he teaches the halakha. He doesn't say the Beit Yosef, he doesn't say Rav Yitzchak Yosef Shlita, he doesn't say Chacham Ovadia. He doesn't say in their name, he just sits and he's learning. What happens now? When we leave that place, hearing these words of Torah, we go now and we say, "Oh, did you hear what this rabbi said?" That means now you're going to give this rabbi credit for something that he didn't do, because he took this idea from the book which he was reading from. So instead of saying that this rabbi said it in the name of this rabbi and that rabbi said it in the name of that rabbi, he takes all the credit. And now he's an honorable person. "Oh, did you hear what the rabbi said? Did you hear what the rabbi said?" You have to understand, Abotai. It's not only about the rabbi saying. It's much more than that. We need to understand, Abotai, the credit has to be given. The credit is due to the one that said it. It's nothing to do with us. So whenever you're listening a rabbi speak, you have to understand where's the source coming from. A person comes up to me and he says, "The rabbi said this is the halakha." I said, "The rabbi never said that this is the halakha. It's a clear Shulchan Aruch. It's a clear Beit Yosef. It's a clear Gemara. Tell me the rabbi said it in the name of the rabbi in the Gemara, in the name of Rabbi Yosef Karo, in the name of Chacham Ovadia." But what happens a lot of times, Rabotai, we don't quote the Rabbein. We don't quote the Chidushim that where we get the information from. And what happens? You're getting credit which is not due to you. The credit really belongs to that person. Again, it's not about honor. But if you can understand that it's not allowed to steal from somebody else, you can't steal money, you can't steal ideas, you can't steal whatever it might be. Who gives you permission to go ahead and steal halachot and place them in your name? Quote the people where you got it from. So next time when they're going to go ahead and speak, they're going to say, oh, the rabbi said it in the name of Rabbi Yosef Karo. It will have more weight. Because if you just tell me the rabbi said, who says I'm going to take it into consideration? That's a lot of times if you see people, what do? Chacham Avadia, Chacham Avadia, Chacham Avadia. Why? Once you say the word Chacham Avadia, people see that it has weight. In any event, Rabotai, if you will see this, you'll understand now why. Because we have an obligation to go ahead and quote the halacha in the name that it was said originally. And not only that, when you're quoting their names, even though they're not alive, there's a machlok debate in the Gemara that where the Gemara says, according to one opinion, that their lips, they move in the ground. So if you're not saying their name, Rabotai, you want to take all the credit, how are you helping them? So that's why it's very, very important. You'll see this very often. Sometimes it could be 2-3 lines, only names to name after name after name after name. He said it in the name of him, he said in the name of him, he said it, right? He could have just gotten and said, in the name of Rav, finish. Why'd you have to give me 10 other rabbis before Rav? Because each one heard it from the other, from the one that actually heard originally from Rav. Okay. In any event, Rabotai, let's get back into the Gemara. So we see over here, the fact that we mentioned Rabbi Zrika on top regarding Rebbe, because he wanted to bring a proof from the pasuk where it says, Chatzot laila kum lehodod lach, and then Kidmu enai ashmurot, and then it says that my eyes had preceded 2 watches before day. How's that possible? So Rabbi Zrika said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, comes to prove to you over here that the night consists of 4 watches. Each half of the night consists of 2 watches. All together you're going to have 4 watches. Okay, so let's get back to today's learning. The Amar Rabbi Zrika, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Zrika said it in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said it in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. That means this next statement that we're going to say formulated from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. But who heard it who heard it from him? Rabbi Ami. Who heard it from Rabbi Ami? Rabbi Zrika. So that's what it says, Rabbi Zrika in the name of Rabbi Ami, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ein omrim bifnei hamet ela devar shamet. You are not allowed to say in front of a dead person only words of the dead person. Meaning, you are only allowed to speak in front of the deceased things that pertain to the deceased. You want to speak about the burial, you want to speak about buying him a plot, you want to speak about where you're going to bury him, you want to go ahead and eulogize him. But whenever there is a deceased person in front of you, you are only allowed to speak words that are pertaining about the deceased. Now, I want to make something clear over here. We did this before. If you just paid attention how I did it, I said right now, Ein Omrim, we don't say in front of a dead person only words of the dead person. So, Rabotai, what I usually do, I don't know if it was discussed, more or less probably yes. I just do so many classes, I don't recall. But even if I did do it, doesn't matter, we'll do it again. Chazara does not hurt. It'll just make it easier because in English, it's very, to go ahead and add so many words. In English it sounds different, in Hebrew it sounds different. We have over here, when I wrote Ein, and then you're going to have whatever the statement is going to be. I'll show you, we'll do it right now. Ein, then the statement, and Eila, then the statement. So whenever you have the word Ein and Eila, you should know it means only. So there's 2 ways I can actually learn this Gemara. I mean, in both ways they're correct. It's only a matter of being grammatically correct where you are able to understand. Because watch this. I can say it in 2 ways. I can say it like this. Ein omrim bifnei hamet. We don't say in front of the dead person. Ela dvar shomet. Only what are you allowed to say in front of the dead person? Only words that are pertaining to the dead person. Or matters that are pertaining to the dead person. That's one way. Look how many words I added. Or I could have just said like this. Ein omrim b'fnei hamet ela devar shamet. We are only allowed to say in front of a dead person only words that pertain to a dead person. I took the word we don't say. I took the negative. Basically, when you have two negatives, I'm making it into a positive. Rabotai, see what works for you. You could do it either way. It's just when I use the language en and elam, it means only, so it's much easier for you to go ahead and learn the Gemara. So, get it back into the Gemara. Ein omrim b'fnei hamet ela dvar shomet. We are only allowed to say in front of the dead person things that pertain to the dead person. Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, said, Lo amran eile, again, same language. Lo amran eile b'divrei Torah. When did we say this halakha? That's only when it comes to words of Torah. What am I doing now? Rabotai, what does it mean, when did we say this halakha? This halakha that was stated above, where it said that you're not allowed to say in front of a dead person only words that are pertaining about him, that means in front of that person, you could only speak about words about the deceased. When was this halakha stated? And in regards to what? Comes Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, and he tells you that is specifically when it comes to words of Torah. However, but worldly matters, things that are not words of Torah, we have no problem with it. There is no prohibition to go ahead and speak worldly matters in front of a dead person. Now we're going to do a few Rashis before we do the Rashis. One more time. The halacha said, Ein omrim b'fnei hamet ela devar shomet. You are only allowed to speak in front of a dead person things that pertain to the dead person. Came Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, and he said, when did we say this halakha? That is specifically in regards to words of Torah. That means if you have to go ahead and speak words of Torah now, you want to go learn Torah now in front of a deceased person, you want to have a conversation with your chavruta, over there we're going to apply that halakha, Ein omrim b'fnei hamet ela devar shomet. That halakha now is going to kick in. You're not allowed to go ahead and speak words of Torah whenever there's a deceased body in front of you. However, when it comes to mili da'am, when it comes to worldly matters, when it comes to nonsense, Gemara says, let lamba. There is no prohibition for you to go ahead and speak about it in front of the dead person. You're allowed to go speak about sports and that and so on and so forth and so on. Now, if we look into Rashi, why when it comes to words of Torah, you're not allowed to speak in front of a deceased person, lo leinu, but when it comes to worldly matters, news, business, sports, you are allowed to speak. So Rashi says, if you pay close attention, Rashi actually changes the text. It says, Eila lidvar halakha. Right? This statement, when it says, Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, lo amran Eila b'divrei Torah, Rashi says, Eila lidvar halakha. That's only if you're going to go ahead and speak words of halakha. Now, I want to just put it to you like this, Rabotai. From this Rashi alone, when he's changing the word to Eila lidvar halakha, you could learn out what Rashi is really implying. Maybe, again, I'm speaking out loud with you. I'm not telling you this pshat. I did not see it inside. I'm thinking out loud with you. If Rashi wants to go ahead and he wants to translate, and he wants to understand that when the Gemara says Eila b'divrei Torah, it means Eila lidvar halakha. According to the way we're understanding Rashi, that means when you're learning things that are pertaining to halakha, is Torah, that's why you're not allowed to speak in front of the dead person. For example, a person wants to learn Shulchan Aruch, Asur. You want to learn Gemara, Asur. Why? Because from there, halakha comes out. You want to learn Tur Beit Yosef, Asur. You want to learn Rishonim, Asur. But what is Rashi? He's saying the word Elul Dvar Halakha. He wants to say that it's falling underneath the umbrella of Elul B'divrei Torah. The way I can learn this Rashi, Rabotai, that real words of Torah are halakha, Gemara, Rishonim, Achronim, Tur Beit Yosef. I'm not going to tell you now that Musar is not Torah, Chumash is not Torah, Midrash is not Torah. Of course it's all Torah. But in the words of Rashi, I could have said maybe when it comes to Musar, Midrash, Chumash, maybe it's not such a big deal. Maybe it's not such a big deal. I'm thinking now that maybe this is why a lot of rabbis, when they eulogize, they also give musar. Maybe it's not included in the realm of Torah. Again, musar to a certain extent is Torah, which is going to motivate you to do more. But can you basically, if I have to compare the learning of Chumash, Midrash, and Musar versus learning the Torah, the Beit Yosef, and the Shulchan Aruch, and the Gemara, are they comparable? They're not comparable, no. Of course, the Gemara, Rishonim, Achronim, Halakha, they have more precedence only because you have to know what to do. But Rabotai, again, I'm just thinking out loud with you, but I looked it up in the Mesivta. I wanted to see why does Rashi change the word Eila Dvar Halakha. The Mesivta says, where do you go? Okay. Here, Eila Dvar Halakha Tzadik Gimel. Look what the Mesivta says. He says in Tiyunim v'Harot, basically I have the Mesivta for Rashi also. So they can explain Rashi, and then they have Tiyunim. They have footnotes on the bottom on how to explain Rashi, or who's giving the explanation of Rashi. So the Tiyunim say, in Ot Tzadik Gimel, he says, Lefaneinu Hagirsa, before us the text is Eila L'Divrei Torah. He says in their Gemara, the text is not Eila L'Dvar Halakha, but rather it says Eila L'Divrei Torah. Okay, so if it's Eila L'Divrei Torah, according to that text, then you're not going to be able to speak anything in front of the deceased. Okay? Rabotai, just a small, idea on the word Rashi, because you have to understand, Rashi was a Rishon, and there's a lot of diyukum you could make from Rashi's words, a lot of inferences that can come out from Rashi's words. Okay. So let's get back into it. Whichever way you want to learn, Eila L'Dvar Halakha, Eila L'Dvar Torah, like the Gemara says, or Eila B'Divrei Torah, whichever way you want to learn, when it comes to words of Torah, you are not allowed to speak in front of the deceased. What is the reason? Comes Rashi and he says, Asur L'Saper L'Fana. So let me do it together. Okay. I want to show you something. How can I do this? Let me see. Okay. All right, let me see if I can do this in a second. Okay. Let me try this. Let me see. Let me show you something. I don't know if you guys can see it. That's why I don't know if it's going to work. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. It says over here, Eila L'Dvar Halakha, or Eila B'Divrei Torah, doesn't matter. Sometimes you have Rashi, where you see if it's bolded letters. Rashi sometimes can come to explain what the Gemara is trying to say. So it'll basically have the bolded letters, and then it's going to explain the bolded letters. But sometimes you can have Rashi where it's a run-on. I'll read the Rashi and I'll read the bolded letters from the Gemara, and then I'll read straight into Rashi. Like I'm reading it as one line. It's like a run-on sentence. Sometimes it could be explaining the bolded letters which are coming from the Gemara, but sometimes it's a run-on sentence. You have to read it like one shot with no stops, no periods. So he said like this: Eila L'Dvar Halakha Asur L'Saper L'Fanav. Rather, when it comes to words of halakha, you're not allowed to go ahead and speak about them before the deceased. Why am I not allowed to speak words of Torah or words of halakha like Rashi says before the deceased? Listen to what Rashi says. It's not. Shehakol chayavim l'saper bahen. Because everybody's obligated, Rashi uses the language, obligated to speak in them. So, if you want to institute the words of the Gemara, Eila B'Divrei Torah, Rashi is going to tell you, everybody's obligated to speak in words of Torah and not in words of shtuyot. If you want to say the way Rashi says over here, that everybody's obligated to speak words of halakha, a person is obligated to go ahead and learn halakha. Bottom line, the Rashi is coming to tell us overall the general idea that a person has an obligation to speak words of Torah. How many of us, Rabotai, speak words of shtuyot, speak words of vanity? Nothing's going to come out of it. Why waste your time on it, Rabotai? Why are you making money from that? Why you sit and speak about it? Speak about something that's important. Very important Rashi, Rabotai. Very important Rashi. Shakol chayvim l'saper b'hem, because everybody's obligated to speak in them, in word, in words of Torah. Vehamet domem, but the deceased is silent. He can speak about them. Rabotai, from this Rashi, it might hint to us that when a person is not speaking words of Torah, Chas v'shalom, is like a dead person. Because what's life without Torah? Like fish without water. He says, V'hamet domem. Why? Right? So everybody is obligated to speak in words of Torah, and the dead person, he's silent, he can't speak words of Torah. Comes out when you're in front of him and speaking words of Torah, it becomes lo'eg l'rash cheref osehu. It comes out that you are mocking the poor person and insulting your maker, meaning you're insulting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he's the one who made you. How is he poor? Because a person who has no capability of doing mitzvot and not learning Torah, he's called a real poor person. But he got a lot of money. It doesn't matter, Rabotai. Over here, Rashi is going on a dead person right now. He's poor because he can no longer learn Torah. Imagine, Rabotai, if in this scenario where the person is dead, Rashi tells you that this is considered to be you. You're mocking him. Why can't he say words of Torah, Rabotai? Because he's dead. He lost that opportunity. Be'emet chofshi. That's what the Gemara says in Masecht Shabbat. A person when he dies, he's free. Free from what? Free from mitzvot and Torah learning. That's what a person has to understand. As long as you are alive, utilize your time, your words, to invest into words of Torah and mitzvot. Don't waste your time. Okay, so one more time the Rashi, Rabotai. Very nice Rashi, very, very powerful Rashi. Right? You're not allowed to speak words of Torah in front of the deceased. Why can't I speak words of Torah in front of the deceased? Because everybody's obligated to speak in words of Torah. And the deceased is silent because he can't speak. It comes out that you are mocking the poor person because he's poor from mitzvot and Torah now, and you are insulting the one who made you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why came Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, and he told you, when does this whole halakha apply that you only have to speak words of the deceased in front of the deceased? That's only when it comes to words of Torah. Because when you're going to speak words of Torah in front of him, comes out that you are making fun of him. If you're making fun of him, you are insulting your creator. However, the Gemara continued and said, Avamili de'alma let lemba. However, when it came to worldly matters, when it comes to sports, news, everything else, the Gemara, according to this opinion, according to the opinion of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahani, said, there's no prohibition of speaking them. Now, if you look into Rashi, why when it comes to Mili de'alma, it's not a problem. Avamili de'alma she'en, you see, okay, same thing, wow. I'm happy I'm able to see it back to back. Same thing, Rabotai, watch this. Avamili de'alma, sorry. Avamili de'alma she'en gana. You see, I'm making it as a run-on sentence. Alright? Rabotai, it'll make it easier for you to be able to learn Gemara. You have to know the system. Once you get the system, that's it. You're on your own, Rabotai. You could fly through Gemara. Again, you have to define, you have to understand. But once you know at least the system, where and what and how, it becomes much more sweeter to learn the Torah. Okay. But when it comes to worldly matters, sports, news, garbage, all the shtuyot, it's not disrespectful to the one that is silent from them. If a person is not speaking about news, why it looks bad? No. If a person is speaking about sports, why it looks bad? No. Little and but. That's what he says. There's no prohibition about going ahead and speaking about worldly matters in front of the deceased. Because when he's silent from them, are you showing him any dishonor? Is that a form of disrespect? If he's being quiet from worldly matters, is that a form of disrespect? Absolutely not. When he's quiet from words of Torah, now you're really making fun of him because everybody's obligated in them. Everybody's obligated to learn Torah, and you're making mitzvot every second that you're saying words of Torah. But now that you can't say because he's dead, and you're saying it and he's not, you're making fun of him. However, when it comes to Milid Alma, it's not disrespectful, it's not dishonorable for the one that is quiet in them. So imagine Reuven and Shimon, two people, he's speaking about sports, he's saying nothing. Is it dishonorable for him? Is it disrespectful that he's not saying, no, Rabotai? He's not obligating them. It's not words of Torah. He doesn't want to speak. Let him be quiet. That's what he says, let len ba. That's what he says, this whole halacha will not apply. That means you are allowed to go ahead and speak words of business, sports, news in front of a deceased. Okay. One more time, Rabotai, let's do the Rashi. I will mili the alma. But when it comes to worldly matters, she'en ganai lemachrish behem, it's not disrespectful to the one that is silent in them, meaning he's silent from the worldly matters. Let len ba, we have no problem of going ahead and speaking about them in front of the deceased. That halacha where it says that you're not allowed to say in front of the dead only words that pertain to the dead will not apply to worldly matter things. When it comes to worldly matter things, you're allowed to go ahead and speak in front of the deceased. This was the opinion of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana. Continues the Gemara. The Gemara says, V'ika de Amri. And there are those that say, Amr Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. There's another opinion that they understood or they heard Rabbi Abba bar, the son of Kahana, said it a different way. The way we understood Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, the first time is when it comes to words of Torah, you're not allowed to speak in front of the deceased. When it comes to worldly matters, you are allowed to speak in front of the deceased. But now comes the V'ika de Amri. There are those that say, in Hebrew, Ika de Amri means Yesh Omrim. There are those that say, Amr Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, Rabbi Abba the son of Kahana said, if you pay attention again, we have a word Lo Amaran Eila, again that word only, but it's in parentheses. Then they have another word, afilu, which is in brackets. Alright, Rabotai. Whichever way you want to go, you will get the same message. It's just what is more grammatically correct to say. So I'm going to skip out, let's put it like this. I'll read it both. I'll read it both ways, okay? I'll read it with the parentheses and then I'll read it with the brackets, excluding the parentheses. Alright, if you guys don't have a Gemara, I'll just show you what you guys are looking at. Right over here. You have parentheses and then you have over here one with the brackets. Okay? So the Gemara says, Ve'ika de Amri, there are those that say Amr Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, they have a different version of how they heard what Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, said. Lo Amran Eila B'direi Torah. When did we say this whole halacha that you're not allowed to speak in front of the deceased person? That's only meaning that you're not allowed to speak in front of the deceased person only words that pertain to the deceased. That was only, this halacha was only said b'divrei Torah. That's only when you're speaking words of Torah. V'kol sheken mili de alma. And the more so when it comes to worldly matters. The way the Yesh Omri want to learn, the way they understood Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, they want to say that the different version is, if you can speak words of Torah, which is a mitzvah, which is important, how much more so you shouldn't speak words of garbage, which are not important. So that's why, according to the second version of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, it comes out over here, that not only are you not allowed to speak words of Torah in front of a deceased, you're not even allowed to speak words of the Torah, you're not even allowed to speak worldly matters, sports, news, business in front of the deceased. Let's go with the word afilu. I'm going to take out the word lo amran elam. Ve'ika de amri am Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. And there are those that say that Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, they had a different version of him. Afilu b'divrei Torah. Even in Divrei Torah, v'kol sheken mili da'alma, and how much more so when it comes to worldly matters. Because he used the word afil even. When did we say that this is a halacha, that when it comes before deceased, you should only speak about the deceased matters, things that pertain to him? It was said even in the words of Torah, how much more so in worldly matters. Same concept, Rabotai. Bottom line is, you can't speak words of Torah in front of a deceased, and according to the second version of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, you're not even allowed to speak worldly matters. Rabotai, we're going to conclude over here because again, it's 2 dots. I want to try to keep it with that section, and it's easier like that. It's much more safer. I don't have to stop. I don't have to make parts. We don't have to go back and forth. I always try to do with the 2 dots. If it's long, that's something else that we'll have to, that's how we'll have to work. But if it's something that I can make it short, I will make it short. In any event, we start today a small chazara. V'am Rabbi Zrika, am Rabbi Ami, am Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi. Rabbi Zrika, the son of Rabbi Ami, the son of Rabbi Yehoshua, the son of Levi, said, Ein omrim b'fnei hamet ela dvaru shomet. You are only allowed to speak in front of the deceased only words that pertain to the deceased. Am Rabbi Abba bar Kahana lo amran ela b'divrei Torah. Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, said, when did we say that you're only allowed to speak in front of the deceased words of deceased? This halacha only applies to when you want to speak words of Torah. You're not going to be allowed to speak words of Torah because it's mocking him and you're insulting Hashem. But when it comes to worldly matters, you're allowed to go ahead and speak them before the deceased. And someone will say, there's another version of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana. Now that it just hit me. Why? Okay. Well, it's fine. It's the same thing. Or if you want to learn the word afilu b'divrei Torah. When did we say that this whole halacha applies, that you should only be speaking about the deceased and nothing else? That's only if you want to speak words of Torah. We're going to tell you don't speak words of Torah and be concerned with the deceased. And how much more so when it comes to worldly matters. So we have 2 opinions of Rabotai from Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. One version of Rabbi Abba bar Kahana says, words of Torah are not allowed to be spoken in front of the deceased. Worldly matters, sports, news, business, everything that's not Torah is allowed to be spoken in front of the deceased. Second version of Rabbi Abba, the son of Kahana, says, if you can't speak words of Torah, how much more so you shouldn't speak worldly matters. Rabotai, have a great day. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Amen.